Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. A lot goes into a decision that a front office has to make. Some moves make sense, some moves don't make sense. Well, I'm here to break down some of the decisions the Yankees and Major League Baseball made this offseason. I'll give you the pros and the cons, and you decide if they made the right call. But before we get into that, a little news and notes. Well, as you remember last season, now of course it was a shortened season and you had the fear of COVID, so Major League Baseball and the Players Association, they agreed on some rules to tinker with the game a little bit. Probably one of the biggest ones had to deal with the double headers. So instead of the traditional 9-inning games, they shortened it down to 7 innings. So it was just the whole idea is that getting these games over quicker. Mainly because you just don't want players hanging around, coaches hanging around, people hanging around, because as many people are hanging around, you increase the opportunity for someone to catch COVID or pass COVID or someone to get contaminated, something like that. So they want to get these games over with. So they're going to bring that into the 2021 season. Reason being, because yes, they are going to play a full 162 game season, but they still want to try to get limit the amount of exposure of people around each other. So they're going to bring that in. Also, you're going to see as well as the player on second base to start an extra inning. As you may recall, if a game goes past 9 innings, for at the start of each inning, then a player starts at second base with no outs. Again, the whole idea is just hoping to get that run in as soon as possible, get the game over as soon as possible. Again, just to get everyone out of the stadium, just to again limit the opportunity for someone to catch COVID. So that's going to be a part of the 2021 season. Hopefully by 2022, when we'll assume most of COVID's over, or at least stamped out, then they'll go back to all the traditional rules that we've been accustomed to for like the past 100 years or so. But again, for 2021, you're still going to see the 7th inning doubleheaders, as well as the players start off at second base in an extra inning situation. What's not going to follow in the 2021 season is the universal DH. Now, remember, one of the other rule changes was having a DH in both leagues. Mainly because just the whole season was choppy. There wasn't a full spring training. It was a shortened season. And the way they aligned the teams, because they didn't want cross-country travel, so you had all the East teams stay in the East, whether it's National League American, all the Central stay in Central, and all the West stay in West. And again, to do that and have a complex schedule and have some pitches, hitting sometimes and not hitting sometimes, was too choppy. So they figured, let's just have a DH in both leagues. They're not going to bring that into this season, so it's going to be a full 162-game season. Kind of going back to the traditional standings, as you know, and kind of more of a traditional schedule, because they're not going to have teams kind of shelter in certain regions of the country we had last year. So now some National League enthusiasts probably like the idea, because they just want to keep that. They want to keep the pitcher hitting. So for them, they're happy. Mainly, I think for a lot of players and athletes, they probably prefer having the universal DH, because again, it's more opportunities for maybe a player that's maybe not as quick on his feet anymore or injury prone. More opportunities now to play in the National League, but of course now that's going to be gone. So I think down the road, maybe 5-10 years, you're not going to have you're not going to have the pitcher hitting. But at least for now, those that are happy with keeping the pitcher hitting, they're going to get their way in 2021. So that stays in the rearview mirror. But again, what's coming into the 21 season? Again, you're going to have the 7th inning doubleheaders, and of course the player to start off the second base and extra innings, again, just to get through the game quicker. And in terms of fans in the stands, things are moving in the right direction. Now, no formal announcements from baseball, but at least with some of the other sports, in New York, Governor Cuomo okayed for fans in some of these venues, such as the Barclays Center and the Madison Square Garden. Of course, a lot of stipulations with it. You have to take like a COVID test like 2 or 3 days before you show up to the event. Again, you got to, whether it's some documentation on your phone or whatever, you got to prove that you are negative. And of course, there's going to be limited seating and all that stuff. So again, nothing really official with baseball yet, but at least things are moving in the right direction in terms of getting fans back in the ballparks. One of the big complaints in baseball is that there's too many home runs. So now what baseball's going to do to combat that is they're going to deaden the ball a little bit. So basically what they're going to do with the rolling balls is that they're going to order that the stitches be not as tight. So basically that makes the ball to 1/10 less of an ounce heavier. And for some reason they figure that's going to result in less home runs. And it's probably just because people are just tired of these games where it's just walk, home run, 3-run home run, and there's really no intermediate games. You don't see too many doubles and hit runs and kind of the traditional baseball. And it's, they figure maybe if there's more more activity within the ballpark instead of balls flying out, again, with players hitting doubles and getting on base and double steals and kind of old-fashioned baseball, maybe it'll spark more interest in terms of, audience and viewers. If you're just kind of sitting back and just, waiting for like, oh, strikeout, walk, home run, great. There's really no action going on. Maybe people switch the channel, go to something else. So again, they're going to try to get less home runs and figure maybe that it creates more excitement in the game and hence more viewership, audience from people. And for the Yankees themselves, they're doing a little tweaking to the roster. Now, somewhat surprising, a couple of years ago, if you may recall, they actually tried to trade to get Jay Bruce back in 2017. Actually, the Mets outbidded them. Well, I guess now cashing for now I get my shot. So the Yankees actually signed Jay Bruce, kind of surprising. 34 years old, left-handed power bat, but really, just doesn't make too much sense for the Yankees in terms of, he's really pretty much, DH at this point. I just don't see him playing the outfield, but, the Yankees want to give him a shot, maybe create a little, competition in spring training. If he does make the club, the deal's only worth like $1.35 million, so you're not really paying for any of them. And again, maybe he has some upside to him. They figure maybe the short porch in right field at Yankee Stadium. He's a left-handed power bat. We know the story. And he maybe can move around a little bit. You can play a little first base, or maybe they just create a little competition just to light a fire under Mike Ford, who really didn't have a great 2020 season himself. So it could be that, but he'll be a part of the camp, possibly make this team, but I just don't think it makes sense because I just don't think there's enough room in the outfield, and he's pretty much relegated to a DH at this point, and that's really what you have Giancarlo Stanton for. The Yankees also bring back a familiar name, Justin Wilson. Left-handed reliever. Now, the Yankees had him a couple of seasons ago, traded him to Detroit in a deal that brought Chad Green here to the Yankees, so, that was good for the Yankees. Kind of a ho-hum type of player, was pitched with the Mets a little bit, has some success. Obviously someone like Zach Britton, even though he's a lefty himself, he's someone that the Yankees, rely on the eighth inning. So, Wilson might be that type of player that, maybe gets that one big lefty bat out, or maybe just someone that comes in the sixth inning just to get out of a jam, something like that. So, decent move for the Yankees, nothing to go crazy over, but yeah, he's back in pinstripes. And speaking of former Yankee relief pitchers, David Robinson, as you might remember, former Yankee closer, as well as Yankee setup man before Mariano passed the closer mantle to him. The Yankees will take a look at him. As you may know, he last pitched with the Phillies, not that great. They sent the scout to go look at him. Seemed like he was only maybe topping 90, 91 at the gun. I just don't see him. The Yankees really considering him strongly. I mean, he's probably definitely his best years are behind. Now, he was never the type of pitcher that, needed to blow away people with like 95 miles per hour. And he had that kind of a weird stride where even though he was only throwing 91, 92, the ball come at, hitters quickly and it was able to, be quite deceptive. But at this point, this doesn't seem like he really has anymore. You want to bring him there, especially with the Yankees. Got O'Day in, and you got plenty of other capable young arms. Don't really see the need for Robinson, but again, they probably just took a look under the hood just to see if he had anything left. And behind the dish, the Yankees signed Robinson Chirinos to a one-year deal. Kind of puzzling. I mean, 36 years old. You would figure he would be like this year's Eric Kratz. Again, the Yankees had last year. Again, a good veteran catcher. Pretty decent for the Yankees, but did announce his retirement at the end of the 2020 season. The move say, why they're bringing this guy in. Higgy's going to be, pretty sure, the backup catcher. So he's the kind of situation where the backup to the backup, just in case, of course, Sanchez, something gets hurt, which, he's going to pull a hammy or a quad somewhere along the way, or a groin, which, he's pretty much famous for. And, if you look at, his history, going back to 2019, was teammates with Garrett Cole. So, maybe a little connection there. And, of course, Cole, and Sanchez really weren't getting on the same page, and it got to the point where Higgy was Cole's valet catcher. So now, let's say a situation where Sanchez gets hurt, he's out. At least now you have two catches who's Cole is comfortable throwing with. So that's probably a lot to do with the move in itself. And with that out of the way, we'll now get into the pros and cons of the moves that the Yankees and Major League Baseball made this offseason. So leading off, well, not a hitter, but a starting pitcher, Trevor Bauer. Of course, the Yankees and many other teams are probably kicking the tires on him. Probably the biggest, free agent of the offseason. Ultimately went to the Dodgers on a 3-year, $102 million contract. And the Yankees probably decided, let him walk, let him go elsewhere. Now, was it the right move? Probably was for the Yankees. Now, you look at him last season, 5-4 record, only one game over 500. Nothing to go, wow about, but he did win the Cy Young, and mainly because his ERA was microscopic, 1.73. But again, it was a shortened season, only, a handful of starts compared to you would have for a normal season. But hey, look, he got it at the right time, got a big contract. But you look at it, he's doing it in Cincinnati. Well, who else is in Cincinnati? Sonny Gray. Do you remember that pitcher? He's doing great in Cincinnati. So really, what does that mean? We've seen Sonny Gray here, and he was pretty much terrible. Well, maybe a little mediocre, but kind of terrible. So you think, Bauer, you bring Bauer up here, would he be as good as he was in Cincinnati? No, probably not. So the Yankees let him walk. And if you also look at Bauer's career, I mean, he's only 11 games over 500 for his career, and his career ERA 3.90, and that's considering with the microscopic season of 1.73 for last season. So you have a pitcher for his career pitching to about 4 ERA. So is that someone you want to invest big bucks in? Probably not. How can you let this guy slip away? He's only 30 years old, and look, yeah, it's a lot of money, but he's out looking for a long-term deal. So even if you're paying a lot of money per season, as he's getting, it's not like you're stuck with him for 9 years like the Yankees are with Cole. And him and Cole do have a relationship. And again, what the Yankees need is a bona fide, healthy number 2 starter, and Bauer's right there. If you look at the other option the Yankees look at, there's a lot of injuries and a lot of question marks, especially with someone like Severino as well, who's already in the Yankee uniform. Bauer's that guy where, yes, he's healthy, he's available, he's in his prime, only 30. You had him right there. He would have been your number 2 starter, no doubt, and you would have had a guaranteed 1-2 punch of Cole and Bauer, and that's really what the Yankees need in the playoffs, and now the Yankees are going to have to rely on a lot of question marks. So since they didn't spend money on Bauer, who they did spend money on at a much reasonable cost was Corey Kluber. Now, a 1-year deal for $11 million. Now, yes, he was injured the past couple of seasons and didn't hardly pitch at all last season, but you're looking at one of the best pitchers in the game, a couple of Cy Young awards under his belt, and if you look, has much more of a track record than Trevor Bauer does. For his career, 40 games over 500. I mentioned the 2 Cy Youngs, and you look at his career ERA 3.16 compared to Bauer's 3.90. So here's a pitcher that really, again, doesn't give up many runs and was considered one of the best in the game. And of course, he wants to prove himself, establish himself. You do that in the Yankee uniform, again, you're going to get a lot of attention. And there's every motivation in the world for him, to pitch well, because then if he pitches well this season, he might get like a 3 or 4 year deal next season. And again, the Yankees really on a commitment, so if he does good, you can say, well, good luck. And if you want a big deal afterwards, good, go somewhere else. So the Yankees should get a motivated Kluber. And again, they're getting one of the best pitchers in the game just for $11 million. Very reasonable deal. The only problem is Kluber hasn't been healthy in like 2 seasons. I mean, his last healthy season was 2018. So now you're asking a pitcher is going to be reaching his mid-30s, recapture some form from like 4 or 5 seasons ago. It's asking for a lot, and you're putting a lot on him. Again, it's going to be a full 162-game season. Is Corey Kluber's arm going to be stretched out enough to make that? Hard to say. And again, you need a reliable number 2 starter. That's what the Yankees need. And now you're really rolling the dice on someone like himself, as well as you have Severino coming back from Tommy John, and even Talkin himself. You have like 3 pitchers who are big question marks. So yeah, there's upsides of things, if that all clicks out, but you're asking for a lot to connect in order to have a decent starting rotation. Otherwise, you're looking for a lot of stopgap people and someone like a Jordan Montgomery and David Garcia, who also themselves have to build up an arm strength for a full season. So again, Kluber's great. He has a good resume, but is that someone reliable for 162 games? Maybe not. And then also left some money in the piggy bank to bring in another starting pitcher, Jameson Taillon. Now, only making $2.5 million. He's one of the best young arms in the game, 29 years old. Yes, like Kluber, injury prone, but again, look back at his career on a terrible, Pirates organization who's been terrible for a while. 82-82 record, so a 500 record on a bad team. 3.67 career ERA, but again, still relatively low. And he's under control for this season for $2.5 million. And next season, he'll be arbitration eligible. So, again, there's every motivation in the world for him to pitch good. And if he pitch good, the arbitrators will probably bump him up. Or the Yankees will do a deal on the side. But at least he's going to be under contract for this season and next season. The only problem is not only has he gone through 1, but 2 Tommy John surgeries. So, yeah, he's a good power young arm, but someone you really can't really say you're reliable on. The only problem is not only has he gone through 1, but he's gone through 2 Tommy John surgeries. So, yeah, he's a good power young arm, not making a lot of money, but not someone you could really say is going to be reliable for, again, a full 162-game season. You were probably better off, bringing someone back like, Tanaka. Now, the Yankees made a trade. They shipped out Adam Ottavino to make some room in the bullpen, which, again, was like, why are they doing this? But then shortly after announced that they signed Darren O'Day, again, previously with the Braves, again, one of the best right-handed relievers in the game. And he's been around for a while. He's been by a bunch of teams, including the Baltimore Orioles, as well as the Oakland Athletics. Again, he has a funky underarm sidearm motion that's very good at getting out right-handers out. But in doing so, they shipped Adam Ottavino and a chunk of his salary up to Boston. So it makes sense. They get his salary out. And Day's contract is very reasonable, which is 1 year for $2.5 million, which, that's basically $9 million less than what Ottavino is getting. And plus, with O'Day, again, just in terms of his season he had last year, pitched to a 1.10 ERA compared to, If you look at Ottavino, to pitch to 5.59, so you look like a 4 difference in the ERA. So in terms of a mass improvement in one key position for the Yankees, and it's an upgrade. And yeah, Ottavino goes up to Boston, but again, it was no really big loss. If you look at Ottavino, really gave the Yankees no opportunity, nothing to offer really in the playoffs, and really the Yankees were kind of forced just to go to a 3-man bullpen of just Green, Britton, and Chapman, because those are really the only 3 players that they could trust. Now, we all know O'Day is a good pitcher, but he is 38 years old, so it's not really a spring chicken. Ottavino is 3 years younger, and of course, we all know Adam Ottavino did not have a good 2020 season, but it's a little bit of a choppy situation, again, the way the season rolled out. Again, he did pitch in a lot of games, so you can't just say it was a small sample size, and his ERA was close to 6, so really no excuse for that. But again, relievers are up and down. It wasn't a typical type of season, so it's not really out of the realm for him to be off a little bit. Overall for the Yankees, he has been good, at least in the regular season. Of course, we do remember, 2019, he kind of ran out of gas a little bit, but he was used a lot during the season, and stuff was still nasty. Again, he's 3 years younger than O'Day. Probably, it just seems reason to believe that it's less likely that he would, break down. Where you look at O'Day, yes, he had a microscopic 1.10 ERA last season. Again, he's one of the best right-handed relievers in the game. But again, at 38 years old, is he going to be reliable for a full season? And it does there come a time where, just because of his funky submarine action, where maybe he tweaks something in his elbow, or just in general from an age, sometimes you just lose it at one point. Seemed more likely that could happen with O'Day more than an Ottavino. Who the Yankees did spend big bucks on this offseason was DJ LeMahieu, who we all felt they were going to bring him back. Signs a 6-year deal for $90 million, so he's making $15 million per year, which keeps the Yankees under the luxury tax, which was their goal. And again, for the Yankees, he's their rock in the middle of the lineup. He's their MVP. Someone you could slot in there. Whether you want to bat him lead off, or maybe they want to move him around a little bit as third place. But whatever, he's kind of like going back to the 90s, like a Paul O'Neill type. He's just someone you want to put that top of the lineup, and kind of the rest of the lineup kind of builds around that. So the Yankees maintain him, keep him there. Also a good defender as well, and only 32 years old. So even though they went a little long on the contract they wanted to, you're still getting, at least another 3-4 prime hitting years out of the guy. But defensively, he might clog things up in the infield. Again, he's a second baseman. Now, again, he's good right now athletically, but it's going to be a point where you're going to have to move him to either first base or third base, so that's going to create a problem and some, block someone else, down the road. Also, he's, at second base, which is, a spot that Gleyber Torres thrived at. And again, since moving over to shortstop, Gleyber's had some issues, even though Gleyber in minors was a shortstop. But again, it seemed that in 2019, Gleyber was much better as a second baseman than he was, at shortstop. So it's going to be an issue for the Yankees to look at. And also, there were some other options out there for the Yankees. Instead of, committing 6 years to one player, they could have brought in some good quality talents, such as, Didi DeGregorius, for example. Now, the Phillies bought him back on a 2-year deal, and if only for $28 million. So not a lot of money and a lot of 90 years. And Didi himself is 1 year younger than DJ. And he gives something that the Yankees desperately need, a left-handed bat. I mean, LeMahieu's fine, but again, the Yankees have a whole lineup of right-handed batters. The Yankees need more left-handed bats and more left-handed power, and that would have been Didi there. So you could have, decided to bring back Didi, move Gleyber back to second base, and you have Didi there as a left-handed power bat. And again, he's still young, 31 years old, and again, a great defender. In terms of a trade for the Yankees, people are floating the name around of Francisco Lindor. Young, 27 years old, but in order to get him, again, you can't just buy him. You would have had to trade with the Cleveland Indians, and they probably, again, from the Yankees, they probably want to take a boatload just because they're both in the American League. He's doing to make $10 million this season, and when he hits the free agency market, or if the Yankees would extend him when they made the trade, the type of play like that is probably going to command around $20 million, which would probably be more it would have cost than keeping DJ LeMahieu. So, again, they might have made some calls over there, but ultimately they whiffed on Lindor, let him walk, and eventually he ended up in Queens with the Mets. And Lindor could have been exactly what the doctor ordered for the Yankees. If you go back Yankee, just in terms of history, whether it's Jorge Posada, Mark Teixeira, Nick Swisher, Mickey Mantle, Bernie Williams, the Yankees always had success when they have multiple switch hitters in the lineup. Now, they already got one with Aaron Hicks. They could have added another with Francisco Lindor. And again, one of the best young players in the game, middle infielder, it would have had him in a situation where maybe, you could put Lindor at shortstop and then move Gleyber to second. And again, not sign DJ LeMahieu. Again, you're going to have to give some money to Lindor. Yeah, great. But again, he's very young. So even when he hit the free agent market, he would have only been 28 years old. So even if you have him around for the next 7 years or so, it's not like, you're paying a player in his early 40s. The Yankees also didn't pony up for JT Realmuto, who ultimately signed with the Phillies, a 5-year deal for $115.5 million, so make a little over $20 million per season, which again wouldn't fit into the Yankees' luxury tax plans, versus Gary Sanchez, set on an arbitration, a 1-year deal for $6.3 million. Now you look at the two players, Sanchez is 1 year younger, Realmuto is 29, Sanchez 28. And in terms of power and production, yes, Realmuto is a good hitter. Again, last season got somewhat of a shorter season, but in 2019 hit 25 home runs. But if you look at Gary Sanchez, 2019 hit 34 home runs, and in 2017 hit 33 home runs. So a little more power on Sanchez's side. Now you look at the batting average of both. Realmuto got much more consistent in terms of his career. Now Sanchez had 2 bad seasons. I mean, just came off a 2020 season where he batted .149, and then in 2018 had another terrible batting season in terms of batting average, 1.86. So that probably had a lot to do with his career batting average being 236. So if you really remove those 2 seasons, they're probably just about the same in terms of batting average. And you just look at the money. Again, Realmuto making over a little $20 million. Gary Sanchez, only 6. But how do you expect to win when even the ace of your team doesn't want to throw to your catcher? Now, that's the problem what the Yankees had with Sanchez, that, just Cole's uncomfortable with him. It was pretty evident in the playoffs. And yeah, I know JT Realmuto, is going to be a hefty contract, but very consistent, as well as consistently defensively behind the plate. And not only would have been more confident for Cole, but probably even for the rest of the pitching staff, especially this season. You have a lot of new faces coming in, such as Kluber, such as Talkin, and so forth. So it's better to have a catcher back there that people feel maybe more confident with, versus Sanchez, where again seems a little bit of a head case and maybe people just not on the same page with him. And yeah, he probably gets beat up a little too much, but you want that confident level behind the plate, because again, most important of all the game. Yeah, even with all offense, everyone loves oxygen, and the chicks love the long ball. You want to make sure your starting pitchers and your pitching staff in general is comfortable who they're throwing to behind the plate. The Yankees also improved their bench, bringing in a couple of hitters. Now they made a trade with San Diego to bring in Greg Allen. Not much of a thumper, but a switch hitter. Something the Yankees do need a little more of a left-handed presence, which they don't have. I mean, really, they just have, Aaron Hicks as a switch hitter. If there's a right-handed pitcher, that's pretty much it. Yankees very heavily right-handed, so bringing in Greg Allen. He's also a very good defender. Someone, again, whether you're putting him in left field or center field, just to spell Hicks there as well. And of course, the Yankees bringing in the veteran, as I mentioned before, Jay Bruce. Again, a power left-handed bat. Someone, again, for Yankee Stadium, should be able to, as long as he's healthy and gets enough playing time, someone could definitely crush a lot of home runs at Yankee Stadium, and only 34 years old. So, yeah, he's not fleet of foot as he used to, but again, as long as he could swing the bat, which, yeah, been decent the past couple seasons with Seattle and the Mets, should do very well at Yankee Stadium. Well, Greg Allen's a nice player and athletically, and yeah, if you want for defensive purposes, fine, but he only has 8 career home runs, so you're not getting there much with power. And, again, if you just want someone to steal base, stuff like that, you kind of already have something like that with Mike Tauchman. So what's really the point of Greg Allen? And, of course, Jay Bruce, again, it seems like, yeah, he has power, but he's entering his mid-30s. And if it's someone you're going to have to play in the field for Yankee Stadium, and especially left field, forget about it. Left field for Yankee Stadium is like similar to center field for most other stadiums. That's why, again, Brett Gardner was good as a left fielder, because really, ideally, you almost need like a center field to play left field, and I just don't think Jay Bruce, and has a bad history with foot problems and heel problems and plantar fasciitis type of stuff like that. He's not someone. He's basically your lug-in type of DH type of player, and the Yankees just don't need that clogging up their lineup. They're ready to have that with Stanton, and again, Judge is going to need days off, and someone like a Luke Voigt probably needs days off. Those just kind of clunky, unfleet of foot type of players. Now you're adding one with Jay Bruce, so it doesn't make sense. And you had Michael Brantley out there, who again signed a 2-year deal to go back to Houston. Would have made more sense. Again, he's about the same age as Bruce, but a little more athletic, so someone who could probably handle the left field at Yankee Stadium, and is more of a steady bat, a 300 hitter. Again, that would have made much more sense for the Yankees than a thumper like Bruce, who's probably more of a feast of famine in terms of home runs or probably striking out. And it seems at this point the Yankees are content with just letting Brett Gardner go. Again, Brett hasn't really signed with any other teams yet, and there really hasn't been any strong rumors going anywhere. Still very serviceable. You'd think he would land somewhere, but for the Yankees, maybe this is time to move on. Just to try to get some fresh blood out there, some fresh legs in the lineup. And again, he's approaching his late 30s. At a certain point with his certain plays, even though he's kind of a speedy, feisty type of player like that. Yeah, sometimes he's got to turn the page and move on. And, the Yankees, do look at some options. Again, you still have Tauchman in there as well, again, who didn't really have a great 2020. But again, I think for a lot of players, it's just really hard to judge them on just a weird season that it was. So you have Talkin in the mix as well. Of course, when they brought in Allen from San Diego, again, he definitely could play left field, and he could definitely be a pinch runner, be a speedster on the bags. And Brett Gardner, it's kind of sad to see him go. He's been with the Yankees for a while, but at some point, you have to turn page and you have to move on. And they could be making a mistake by not bringing back Brett Gardner. Yes, he's getting a little long in the tooth. He's going to be 37 years old, but there's not really about him that physically seems he's breaking down. I mean, at least in terms of defensively, he really hasn't lost a step. Now, again, the batting average might go down a little bit like that. But overall, for Brett Gardner, he's been very reliable for the New York Yankees over a long period of time versus some of the options they have also brought in, such as, a Greg Allen or a Jay Bruce, who are outsiders where you're not really sure how they are yet. Are they going to be able to adapt? Are they going to be able to, play in Yankee Stadium, play the outfield, and, thrive in this environment? We're not too sure yet. At least with Brett Gardner, you know what you're getting. And again, it's just someone you can trust and rely on, and just where, he's not really going to command a big contract because, he didn't really have the greatest of 2020 seasons in terms of putting up stats. So, you're not going to have to shell out $10 million. It's very reasonable to believe that he would come back on a deal, maybe $1 to $2 million. And he's just someone I would rely more on than, a Mike Tauchman or even, again, Greg Allen. And as I mentioned at the top, baseball is going to bring in some of the 2020 rules into the 2021 season. Of course, the doubleheaders, they will be 7-inning doubleheaders just to shorten the game, the amount of time. And of course, it's something you just want to do with, again, COVID still running around out there, even though they're rolling out the vaccines. You just want to try to limit people congregating. So instead of having players around for 2 9-inning games, have them around for 2 7-inning games, again, just the hopes to get it through quicker and give everyone out of the stadium, as well as, of course, the runner on second base during the extra innings, of course, just, again, more of a likelihood of games ending quicker. And not only just for COVID reasons of getting one out, just in terms of the viewership, it's just so you don't have to stay up till 2 in the morning to watch the ending of a game. It just, people just drop out, you lose interest, whereas, you put that runner on second base with no outs, this creates a little juice, a little interest later in the game, and maybe, again, just attracts more fans, makes the game more interesting. Of course, we're all concerned about COVID, don't want it to spread, but again, this is the game of baseball, and you're just going to change the rules. I mean, are you going to make football like 3.5 quarters instead of 4 quarters? I mean, the game's 9 innings, so yeah, I understand, you want players around all day, but really, if you're thinking about it, it's like 4 extra innings to the day, and hey, look, that's what it is. Those are the rules of the game. You're now going to it's not the same game of baseball, because just in terms of, you let the starter pitcher go the whole way, or can you use your bullpen at all? I mean, it's all part of the strategy, it's all part of the game. So now you're changing the rules of the game and an outcome. Hey, look, how many times do we see comebacks because someone in the 7th or 8th, 9th inning, the reliever blows the game, so like that. Well, now you're taking that out of the equation again, and just for what? How much time are you really going to save? I mean, okay, even if you save an extra 90 minutes or even 2 hours, I mean, is that going to help spread COVID more or less? So I'm not really a big fan of it. It doesn't make sense. Again, because it's not the same game of baseball. Same with the player on second base. I mean, you're basically faulting a team basically for, okay, I didn't say one guard, you're faulting a team for not hitting, but you're also faulting a team for pitching well. So again, these are not the rules. These are not the rules of baseball, and we understand. 2020 is a special situation. It was a shortened season, okay, but now you have a full 162 game season now, and it's a totally different game at that point. So there you have it, folks. Those are the major decisions that the Yankees and Major League Baseball had to make this offseason. So what do you think? You agree with them? Don't agree with them? Like some? Don't like others? Let me know. Go onto YouTube, Section420 Talkin Yankees. You'll see something that looks like me. Subscribe to it. Comment. Let me know. You love me, you hate me, but most importantly, subscribe.